Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. They just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over.
I think it's ridiculous. Jake Paul's taking the piss, like he always does. Just from saying I'm gonna fight AJ tonight, fighting Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
Who's 100 pounds in weight lighter. 100 pounds. Weight divisions in boxing are split up, some of them, the lower weights, by 3 or 4 pounds. All I can say about Jake Paul fighting somebody half his size is he's a bully.
I'm fighting Gervonta Davis on
wow.
Netflix. Let's go. People think that he could actually beat me, and people think he could outbox me, and he's so powerful and this and that. That's what makes it a good fight. November 14th, Netflix.
The countdown is nearly over, and the voices inside boxing's inner circle are getting louder. Champions, trainers, and seasoned analysts have all delivered the same message to Gervonta Tank Davis. Do not sleep on Jake Paul. What started as a social media sideshow has turned into a fight the whole sport can't ignore. Even Tank showed respect by saying he fully accepts Jake Paul as a legitimate boxer and that he would never look past him. Regardless of everything that happened in the lead up to it, Tank was adamant that he would prepare for it like any other world title fight. No quick workouts, no assuming anything, for he stated, the moment you underestimate a man, that's when you're caught.
Do you think that it's fair to call them boxers now? We talk about Logan Brothers.
I think it's okay to call Jake Paul a boxer. The only reason why I say that is because he do be in the gym. He's working on stuff. The fight that he fought Mike Tyson, I don't think he should have fought Mike Tyson because of who Mike Tyson is and the age. And he said that he didn't try to knock him out. Yes, you did. You just couldn't get the knockout. Like, he tried to knock him out for sure.
Then came Sean Porter, a man who has faced every conceivable storm the fight game can throw at you. A former world champion and veteran of numerous wars. A guy who has absorbed the power of every weight class. From the first words coming out of his mouth, you could hear the hesitancy. It was almost as though he was trying to decide between being honest and preserving the peace. His narrowing eyes and shifting shoulders seemed to convey that even just thinking about the matchup was a little off for him. But at least he talked frankly about the obvious size disparity, about how the math simply doesn't add up, rather than being born in the gyms and back alleys that are the breeding ground for genuine rivalries. The way Sean Porter explained it, this isn't just another fight, but a spectacle that is almost beyond the logic of the sport. This notion barely registered in the context of the conversation whatsoever. To Porter, this was money flexing, a carnival masquerading as something classic, and Porter expressed that sense of discomfort, that almost hesitant disbelief, which was a different kind of tension to carry. It was no longer just about who could establish the cleaner shots or whose hand gets raised.
Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about it, what to really say about it. I've only been asked this when it's been presented to me. That's when I think about it, and I can't really come up with a good answer for it. In a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense to me. Of course, we know the size differential, and the list goes on from there. I don't know, man. I think we're entering a generation now, or a phase now where fighters, I don't know if it's fighters, I don't know if he doesn't care about the legacy, or if he feels like this fight doesn't matter, I'll get back to the legacy. I just don't know. This is truly not, it's not a legacy fight, but of course it is a generational money fight, so.
It was now about, and just when doubt was already heavy in the room, in walks Joe Rogan. Rogan never holds back. He didn't provide a measured and balanced analysis. He simply opined, one part stunned, one part half laughing at the madness of it all. You could hear this in his voice, both a sense of wonder and disbelief as he exclaimed, "Are we really doing this?" Rogan's voice made it feel less like a sporting event and more like one of these crazy laboratory experiments that escaped from its cage. He didn't just offer offer opinions. He drove home the hard numbers, the staggering jump in weight classes that does not make any sense at all to every conceivable idea of human beings.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Let that sink in.
Jake
That's
Paul,
boxing right now.
Gervonta Davis is so crazy. 135 versus 200. That is so nuts.
They're all expedition.
For Rogan, it wasn't just unusual, it felt almost irresponsible, a challenge to the limits of what fight fans can imagine. In framing it like that, he made quite the fight to promote into a challenge to the natural laws of fighting itself, like the sport was being evaluated in the funhouse mirror. The tone employed by Rogan made the fight feel less like a sporting competition and more like some wild experiment escaped from the lab. He did not merely throw out opinions, but drove home the frigid facts, forbidding us to grasp the frightening jump between weight classes. Defying every piece of rationality, Ward didn't take a jab, he offered a reality check. He pointed out that Tank's focus has shifted from chasing history to filling arenas and accumulating pay-per-view buys, which says a lot of difference in today's era when money means more than titles.
I don't remember the last time that I've heard Gervonta Davis say, I'm in boxing to be the greatest fighter of all time. I can't remember. I've heard him say that he's better than certain guys in his weight class, or this kid can't beat me. I've heard that. I can't remember, and maybe y'all can keep me honest online. The last time I've heard Gervonta Davis talk about his legacy in the ring, like I'm building my legacy, I'm trying to outdo Floyd in legacy. Like, I think it started like that for him. But the influence of Floyd Mayweather, Money Man, not Pretty Boy, but the Money Man, and building your brand and selling tickets and selling pay-per-views and becoming a household name, that's also a legacy. You got the legacy in the ring and you got the legacy in terms of how you sold.
Ward wasn't bitter. He spoke with the calm certainty of a man who's been through the grind and earned a real legacy. Ward pointed out that Tank himself admits he no longer feels the need to prove anything at all. To some, supreme confidence. To others, reckless complacency. Ward framed it as a fork in the road. Greatness comes from proving you can go, while wealth favors the safe and calculated. His voice bore the subdued caution of a man who understands the toll such an approach carries.
Selling tickets and making money and securing his future for himself and his family. He said it out of his own mouth. I ain't got nothing else to prove. Well, depends on what your goal is. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to be one of the greatest fighters of all time, it's still a whole lot to prove.
A career characterized more by rapid paydays than remembrance for mythical wars. Ward got right to the point. If Tank can't hold himself to an all-time great standard, why should anyone else? If he's just looking for financial security and self-preservation, that's fair enough. But boxing history is one of greatness, and that's what fans tend to want. Ward flipped the light back on. Are we judging Tank based on our hopes?
My point is, Roy, I don't think, should everybody hold this man to the standard that they hold him to and say, you not fighting nobody, yeah, you making money, but you ain't really fought nobody. If he don't even care about that, that's not even something that he's really focused on. If his main focus is the money, and his main focus is getting out of boxing without getting hurt and retiring on his own terms, shouldn't his fan base and other people get on board with that if that's not even his goal? How can we hold him to something like that if he don't even hold himself to that?
Or Tank's own goals and ambitions. That tension is still hanging there, asking if the fans are going to accept it or want more. The buildup reached a peak at the final face-off when former fighter and sports analyst Chael Sonnen completely unloaded on Jake Paul's antics. Sonnen did not claim Jake was just being a typical hype man before a fight. He stated emphatically that Jake was putting on a scam performance, a masterclass in trying to manipulate the perception of the audience. Chael described the sequence of events with detail, the stare down, the pause, the eruption with literary perfect timing to shove Jake off his moves was choreographed to create the idea that Jake Paul was greater, bolder, and in control of the energy of the evening. He warned the viewers and the fans at home not to mistake showmanship with dominance, and it was all about planting seeds of indecision, planting seeds of doubts, and in Jake's case, perhaps persuading Tank that an upset was imminent.
Tank looked very uncomfortable facing off. He just did. I've seen other face-off this Tank done. He gets in their face and they're intense and he looks good. He looked very meager up there. You've had 8 fights and you're gonna go tangle with Tank Davis. And the story instantly comes out. Jake is so much bigger. There is such a compliment to Jake within that insult. It is meant to be an insult. It is meant to take away from a potentially glorious moment for Jake. But where the compliment comes is it means the public believes he's gonna win. That's what it means.
Ryan Garcia also jumped in. His comment labeled the whole Jake versus Tank extravaganza a circus, even shaking his head about the hype and the weight difference. Regardless of all the highlight shows, Ryan emphasized one clear thing: he's betting on Tank. The talent discrepancy is just too wide of a gap in his opinion, and it's strictly boxing when that bell rings and the show is over. Meanwhile, Jake Paul owned the moment. He went out and admitted this is the biggest challenge of his career, but instead of backing away, he pledged to bring the best version of himself when the bell rings, a statement that takes this fight from spectacle to a real proving ground for both. Jake spoke with that rare mix of reverence and fire, openly acknowledging Tank's blazing speed, world-class ability, and deep ring experience, the very factors that made him a horrible matchup. There was no fear. Instead, he deeply leaned into his own advantages: the size, the raw strength, the natural athleticism he believed would tip the night in his favor. There was no bravado. His voice showed laser-like concentration, as if every sentence was a silent alert of what was to come. Jake dismissed doubts with almost defiant ease, and turned all of the constant criticism into nothing more than pure fuel.
Tank looked very uncomfortable facing off. He just did. I've seen other face-off this Tank done. He gets in their face and they're intense and he looks good. He looked very meager up there. You've had 8 fights and you're gonna go tangle with Tank Davis. And the story instantly comes out. Jake is so much bigger. There is such a compliment to Jake within that insult. It is meant to be an insult. It is meant to take away from a potentially glorious moment for Jake. But where the compliment comes is it means the public believes he's gonna win. That's what it means.
Lawsuits, drug testing talk, and endless accusations all confirm that people cannot accept victory unless they see it as real proof and evidence of the win. Instead of running from the noise, he engaged with it, labeling the criticism. His message remained razor simple when he defeated Tank: doubt will have nowhere to hide. No excuses, no asterisks. To Jake, this fight is not just a victory on the scorecards. It is about taking the narrative of defeating the YouTube fighter who made his way to the main event.
What do you think of Jake Paul, Gervonta Davis? I know on Instagram you called it a circus.
Yeah, this boxing is slowly turning into the WWE. That's what I think.
Does Tank Davis have a chance?
Yes, but
yeah?
I don't even want to talk about it. Don't ask me questions like that again.
Ripping it up and replacing it with one pure fact, and the certainty in his voice made him feel like he wasn't talking to fill the airspace, but like he was making a promise that the world will have to contend with when the final bell rings.
Locked in. I know this is my toughest fight. He's undefeated, highly skilled, most experienced fighter I've fought, top 5 pound for pound. So I have to have the best version of myself. I know how fast he is. I know how strong he is. I believe I'm stronger, more athletic, and that's my advantage going into the fight, but he pretty much has every other advantage. So I'm locked in, fully focused, feeling amazing already, and just going to put on a performance and have the biggest fight of 2025. Oh, absolutely. Tank's gonna be the one surviving. I'm gonna, upset a lot of people, and again, they're going to have to say that there's some crazy excuse, fights are rigged. They can't use the steroid excuse because we have full-on random drug testing at any time. They could literally knock on my door right now. So they can't use that excuse. And obviously I'm suing people who say that the fights are rigged. Piers Morgan already had to retract his statement and kiss the ring. More lawsuits are coming for these people who are lying on my name because it's just simply not true, and we're willing to prove that in court. But I'm actually flattered that the only thing that people can chalk up these wins to is that the fights are rigged, because it's honestly the greatest compliment.
And that is our setup. Jake Paul, a self-made disruptor who refuses to adhere to the old boxing paradigm, glares across the ring at Gervonta Davis, a verified pound-for-pound powerhouse with a highlight reel rooted in carnage. One brings size, youth, and unyielding belief. The other brings lightning-quick speed, surgical accuracy, and a history of knockouts. This is more than a battle of fighters. It is a battle of world's celebrity strength versus championship experience. The brazen upstart looking to rewrite history, contented to face the man some call the most dangerous finisher in the sport. Is there anything that we cannot ask? Will Jake's size and strength withstand Tank's searing pace? Will Tank's experience serve to neutralize a fighter looking to prove his doubters wrong, who has made a career out of beating people who look to achieve what they perceive as true fighting prowess? The talk is finished, the headlines are written, and the countdown is almost over. When that first bell rings, the noise will fade and only the truth will remain. Either Jake Paul proves he belongs among boxing's elite, or Tank Davis shows once again why skill and legacy can't be bought or faked. So what about you? Is this the moment Jake silences the world, or the night Tank delivers the ultimate reality check? Drop your prediction in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and get ready, because when these two touch gloves, it's not just another main event, it's the fight that could define 2025.